Hello everybody, welcome to the webinar for Magaya's 10.4 version, part 1.
Hello everyone, this is Jose Barahona with Magaya Corporation. I'm here joined with Christian. As you both know, we like to take part in showing you what's new, showing you what are some of the items that we're cooking up here in Magaya. So thank you for joining us today. 10.4 is it looks like it took too long to get out. In fact, I've been waiting for a lot of these features to come on and out, and it's really nice to finally see out on the field. And I know some of you have already done some updates and some more updates, which is always the idea to try to get the latest version. So once again, my name is Jose Barahona, and I am the General Sales Manager here at Magaya. So it's my pleasure to sit here with Christian today and go over some of the, I guess, the big key points. There's a lot of items that keep being added to the software. And speaking with some of the programmers, we're almost at 2 million line of code when it comes to what we're doing in Magaya. So it's very exciting to be able to do that. So today, what we want to go over with you in 10.4 is obviously talk about these new regulations. A lot of regulations with the ER we built and the EVGM. So we want to go ahead and be able to show that to you. We want to show you a faster and more secure way to log in. Windows single sign-on. Some of us are having to sign on 2 different ways. We've always done it, so we're going to change it up a little bit and help those specifically, help everyone, not just the people on cloud, but also you who are using a standalone system locally there and having to log into your computer and then logging into the Magaya system. So that's important. And this is great. This is the new cash basis accounting reports. As you know, Magaya has been doing accrual, and now we're getting into the cash basis accounting reports. So Christian's going to spend some time showing us what we're doing, and we're very excited as to the reports that are available for you and how that's going to change the way you're managing your business. We do have a new wizard to import data faster and easier, including rates. As you know, in Magaya, we've always had an opportunity to actually export any information out. That's been one of the greatest things about getting some of you up to speed in being able to take information from an older system, bring it into Magaya, and get you up and running. Now we've actually done an even better opportunity for us to do that when it comes to how we're actually able to import some rates, for example, import some POs. So Christian's going to go in a little bit and talk about some of that. So it's very exciting to see those changes coming about. And remember, a lot of these items here are specifically customer feedback. So the new wizard, the cash basis, is customer feedback that's come to us, and we're able to do that. We actually do have a new live track that looks a little bit different. It's updated. You'll be able to have more ways to customize the features for your clients. So it's not Magaya doing it. It's actually giving you the tools to be able to change colors, change the way the branding shows up. So that's really nice. And I think it's going to give you a little bit more power of being able to say, hey, this is my tracking system. It's just powered by Magaya, but I can change it up and make it different. So that's really exciting in what you're going to be able to do that. So we hope that you'll be able to enjoy that and start putting it up to work. And some of you may say, well, Jose, I don't have live track. Well, don't worry about it. We'll definitely set you up for you to test it out and show you how that works. And finally, we'll be able to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of the webinar part 2. There are some things that Christian may say, because Christian, being one of our guys who's hand in hand with development, he's, as a product manager, he's going to want to show you some things that are in 10.5. So we'll try our best to keep him in check and making sure he doesn't go above showing you anything that we've talked about so far. So let's go ahead and we have a few poll questions for you. So we'll go ahead and get started with some of the poll questions to get a better idea of where you are, and we'll go from there. So Christian.
Thank you, Jose. Yes, we have between sales and development, we constantly have this little battle that sales wants to sell things that we haven't made yet, and development wants to demo things that are not in the release versions yet, but are still beta. Anyway, we have a poll question here for all of you, and I'm going to launch it now. The first topic is going to be e-airway bill. So this is just to kind of get everybody started. And the question is, in your mind, what would be the top benefit for the electronic airway bill from Magaya for your operations? And the following options are available. Cargo status updates from airlines into your Magaya system. Moving away from impact printers. We all know those dot matrix printers can be really tedious. Avoid penalty fees, meaning airlines charging for paper airway bill. Data accuracy and message log, meaning that in your Magaya system you would have a log, a history, a trace of all the e-airway bills that you've ever filed. Data accuracy, meaning that the data that is in your system is actually sent. No one can make a typo on a typewriter. And also there we did include an option that I don't see any benefits yet. We might have customers that really don't, at this point where the industry is, see benefits of using Magaya's electronic airway bill. So pick one, and we have currently 25% of the attendees voted. So let me also point out that the polls are on the right-hand side of your screen, probably where you see the GoToWebinar control panel. There should be a section for polls. So if you don't see these questions that I just read out loud, you should see something blinking or somewhere possible to click on the right-hand side of your screen. And also another thing that another technicality that I wanted to mention, on that right-hand side you should see a questions box, and you can type into that box already. Whenever you have questions during the webinar, you can start typing. They will queue up nicely for the questions and answers section that we will have in the end. So whenever you think of a question, you can type it in right away and I'll take it in the end. All right. So we've had over 2 minutes of this poll here. Almost half of you have voted, so I'm going to close it in 5 seconds. We currently see that most people see the biggest value in cargo status updates. But let's see, if we close the poll, we should actually see the results as well. All right, so here we are. And yes, so 42% of you that voted said the cargo status updates from airlines is the top benefits. So let me share these results with everybody. All right, and a few don't see benefits at this point, which is fine too. All right, so let's start with our presentation. And so for the e-airway bill, I'm actually really not going to demo it because we had a separate webinar on it. We have released a how-to video and a promo video of the e-airway bill on our YouTube site. So if you go to YouTube and you search for Magaya, you will find our channel, and there are at least 2 videos there already about the e-airway bill and the recording as well of the previous webinar. So I'm not going to demo how to file an e-airway bill from Magaya today because we have so many features in the 10.4 version that we're actually going to hold 2 webinars anyway. This is part 1, and the next part in September will also cover some features that we won't have today. So basically, I'm just going to tell you where the project currently stands. So we are currently in a pilot phase with probably around 10 customers filing actively with multiple airlines. And with a few airlines, we have already a full circle of the e-airway bill being sent and the messages and the freight status updates coming back to our customers' Magaya database. So the biggest thing that we've noticed so far is actually operational. The few programming issues that there have been, a few errors we have been able to fix, but it seems like so far the biggest bottleneck is actually registering with the individual airlines. So when you file your IATA, when you fill in your IATA multilateral agreement and you register with Magaya, we also send to the airlines registration requests if you indicate that you wish to file with that airline. And those requests might take up to 2 weeks to get started. So that's the only thing today that I wanted to update you on, is that when you're starting with us and the e-airway bill, just in case, be ready to wait for a couple of weeks, because the airlines are very different in how fast they sign up individual customers that want to file through Magaya. Some of them have been faster, some of them have been slower. So that is basically the status at the moment. All right, and so next, and we will maybe Jose will, when we do the closing words, we'll talk about a few news in the airway bill industry approach as well. But next, let's start with our second poll. Okay. All right. So the second topic, the poll will be visible now. The second topic we want to cover today, quickly just give you an update, is the EVGM, aka verified gross mass. And the question is, do you provide verified gross mass of EVGM of containers to your ocean carriers? And the options are yes, I provide it. Then no, I have a third party handle the EVGM. There can be, anyone that you can designate it to, a designated weighing station, for example. Third option is no, it's taken care of by the terminal or the carrier. Basically, the carrier lets you know, okay, it's not mandatory, I'll have someone weigh it, likely the terminal. Or we also included an option, I don't ship ocean containers, because if you do, someone has to provide the EVGM. That is the new rule. So, but we have customers doing very many different things, so there's an option for that. All right, so we have 44% of you that have voted so far in this poll. All right. And I'm going to close this and share the results. All right, so what's interesting is that out of everyone who answered, they themselves have to provide the EVGM to the carrier. So we have heard from the industry that many of the carriers have the terminals weigh the container, but it looks like it is still widespread out there that the freight forwarders or shippers have to provide it as well. All right, so with the EVGM, what we have are two options, and I'm going to show it in my Magaya system now. All right. Okay, apologize for the technical difficulties here. Okay. For some reason, I'm having my Windows seem to have crashed here. And I'm restarting it. And let me run my Magaya again. Okay. Apologize for the delay. I have my Magaya open. And I'm going to open an outgoing ocean container, ocean shipment containerized. Okay, so on a containerized ocean shipment, we have added now a tab for the VGM data. So any of you who ship ocean containers know already what this means, what the method 1 is. That's that you weigh the full container. Method 2 is that you enter the container tear weight and the total cargo weight, and you add them up, and that is your VGM. So we've added the verifying party, which is basically the company name, and the most important part here, who is the signature person and phone number, how the signature person can be reached if there's an issue. Okay, so once this information is filled out, I'm going to remove these other containers here. Right. Well, actually, I don't necessarily have to. And so I can add a document now that it's called the VGM declaration. And this document will populate the information that I filled out on my container. It's like any other Magaya standard document. And this is in case you need to provide a printed proof of VGM, okay? I think it is the wrong one I'm showing. Yes, the master level. Okay, so this is in case you need a PDF, you need to send it to someone because you always might want to have a document. Now, as another option, we've added under our ocean carrier messages an EVGM option to file it directly to Intra. And we have a few customers using it. It works well already. You get a confirmation email back from Intra, and Intra delivers the EVGM to all carriers, even the ones that aren't part of the network. To the ones that are outside of the network, they deliver it via an email. Okay, and we have actually changed our Intra pricing, and we have a pricing special that Jose will cover now.
Great, thanks, Chris. The pricing that we originally had was, since we're going through Intra, being able to do everything in one main place. And as you know, Intra normally has the shipping instructions, the bookings, online bookings. That still is part of it. And the way that is sold is $25 every 5 Magaya licenses. So if you have 2 licenses, you would pay $25. Anywhere from 6 to 10 or 7 licenses, you would be able to pay $50 monthly. The new price for you who don't have Intra and want to be able to use the EVGM is actually $2 per container, and it includes all the other transactions that the original Intra plugin had. So we're moving away from having 2 systems or 2 ways of being able for you to use that connectivity to the ocean carriers, and now we're just saying, hey, just use it at $2 per container, and that will include the EVGM, the shipping instructors, the bookings, and obviously all the other feedback that you're currently using for that. Now, some of you here with us already have Intra. You say, well, what happens to us if I have Intra and I want to start using the EVGM? You have to go ahead and move to the new pricing plan that we have. Okay, we realize this is the best way for you to enjoy all these other different features. Some of you may say, well, I only want EVGM. What happens to the bookings? Well, it really works together in Magaya at being able to send those instructions as well as being able to make those bookings all whole into one, and being able to send that EVGM without having to recreate or retype any of that general information. So we are going to basically put everything at $2 per container at being able to use that Intra, that plugin in itself. Okay.
And I think we actually put on the slide here the old intra pricing, which is the one without VGM. So if any of our current intra customers wish to keep that without the VGM, they can do that. Just wanted to clarify that if you're currently using intra through Magaya and you're not interested in the VGM, you can keep the pricing model that you actually see on the screen here. But the new one is for all intra transactions and cargo status updates that you can get through Magaya, which are 3 different types of transactions today, included in a $2 per container price. Okay, so we have our next topic and our next poll. We're going to a bit more technical topic now, IT. So how do you access Magaya as a user? That is actually a pretty simple question. Select one of the following. I first log into my PC and then into Magaya. So this is probably to all these customers that aren't using Magaya Cloud or any other virtual machine based installation that have local installations of Magaya in their office. And the other option is I first log into the cloud, whether this be Magaya Cloud or any other cloud installation, and then into Magaya. So we all know those 2 steps and how they sometimes can be a little bit annoying. Okay, so I'll close this poll. Half of you have voted. Let me share results. Looks like most of us are still using local installation, not cloud-based, which is totally fine. There are benefits to that. And so let's go back to our next feature here, which is actually related to how you log into Magaya. And this is called Windows Single Sign-On Integration. It's very, very technical. But what it means is that Windows that you have already set up, or your network administrator in the office has set up for you, you have a username and password that when you start your computer in the morning, you log in to your Windows domain or work group, as they're called. And the password, the username and password that you set up for yourself there can actually now double as your Magaya username and password. And what are the benefits of this and how can you use this? Well, first of all, the most obvious one, it eliminates the need to log in separately into Magaya. So when you double click on Magaya on your desktop and it launches and it gives you that login window, this login window will not appear if you have made this setup, because it will log you in using your Windows login and password. What that achieves, and some customers of ours that have certain security standards, compliance, for example, with certain certification rules that they have to adhere to, Magaya passwords can be quite weak. We actually have only one limitation, which is the password needs to be longer than 6 digits or longer than 5 digits. But by making the Windows password also the Magaya password, any security rules that you put on your Windows login, you can make the passwords expire in Windows and use different upper lowercase combinations. You can enforce different rules. They now automatically cover Magaya as well. So we've achieved a little bit of compliance here as well. And for the administrators among you, just anticipating a question, what if I don't have a domain set up? Smaller companies especially, it also works with Windows workgroups. And if you have domains or workgroups, and if you have multiple in your company, it works across multiple as well. And I'll actually show it to you quickly at this point. So what I'll do is I'm going to my Magaya system here. And in the configuration menu, under security, you have to be an administrator to access this setting. You now have the option to check use integrated Windows authentication. And once you do check that, you should type in what your domain or workgroup name is. And then on a user level, so I'm going on my employee and I'm using, for example, administrator here. That's my username. You type in your domain username. The password here isn't even important. It does it through the domain username. So for example, when I log into my Windows, that's my domain username. And by putting this on my employee, I will now not be prompted with a password when I start my Magaya, because I'm already logged on to Windows. Okay, you saw the little welcome window pop up very quickly, but the username and password window didn't. Okay, so to temporarily disable it or disable it, just if you want to see how the default way is, if I for example go and remove my username from here and log in again, there you go. Now it says it didn't find the Windows username in this Magaya database, and it gives me the login window again. Okay, so this is of course extremely valuable in cloud installations, where you have to first log into the remote computer and then log into Magaya Explorer as well. It's always a two-step process. Now this could be a one-step process. And if you're using your local installation like I in this demo, it is basically a zero-step process because you are already logged on to Windows to work on your computer anyway. Okay, so this is the single sign-on that we have now in version 10.4. Very easy to set up, and our tech support can help you there as well, and implementation. Next topic, again, we'll introduce it by a poll, is something very, very exciting, almost more exciting than IT, and this is accounting. Okay, so which accounting method do you use? Select one of the following: accrual basis, and we have an option here that I use it in Magaya. Accrual basis is not in Magaya for those that don't do any accounting in Magaya. Cash basis, but not in Magaya. Or I don't know. And frankly, those of us that aren't accountants or maybe managers are just more familiar with financials, what accrual basis and cash basis mean might not be common knowledge. I totally get that. And let's close this. A few of us haven't voted yet, but I think we have a pretty even share here. So we have mostly accrual basis or I don't know. Okay, so what in this version, what news we have in accounting is that we now support cash basis. So the difference between cash basis and accrual basis, and I'll just as I'll quickly share this demo, the difference is the following. So let's go and look at my invoices. It's the easiest to explain with invoices or bills, accounts receivable or accounts payable, and when my revenue or cost is recorded or when it occurs in my books. Okay, so I have two invoices here from today for goods or services provided, and in the traditional accrual-based accounting, these are now already my income. It doesn't matter if these invoices are open, by the way, they're not paid. I haven't received money for them yet. That's a very crucial distinction here. But in my books, I already have this income from today. That's the transaction date because I have recorded these invoices. So let's go and run, for example, my profit and loss or balance sheet or the other financial report. And I see that those invoices, one for $100 and one for $25, they show under my income section of my profit and loss or my income statement here, because they are my accounts receivable, which is already considered income, even though the customer hasn't paid yet. That's accrual-based accounting. I have already accrued this income, and that is what most bigger companies, or what most companies use, and what bigger companies have to use. Okay. Now there is an alternative method which is called cash basis, which a lot of smaller companies are allowed to use, which QuickBooks has, for example, as well as an option, and which now Magaya has, and that is called cash basis. So cash basis essentially means that my income occurs, and the same on the other side, my expense or cost occurs only when there's actual money moving. So accounts receivable or accounts payable isn't really a thing. So let's now go and set this report under the configure button, financial, set this report to cash basis and have it recalculate. And I see that I have, from today, for this month actually, I have 0 income. Okay, so those invoices created didn't affect my income at all because I haven't seen the money yet. All right, so let's go back and pay one of those invoices or receive payment for one of those invoices. And let's see how my report looks now. Okay, let's run the same report, profit and loss detail. All right, I see that my income in the accrual base hasn't changed because today is when I registered the income. However, if I now look at my cash basis, the invoice that I paid now shows up as income because I received money for goods and services provided. So basically, companies that use cash basis, and you can ask your accountants if you do, and if maybe that hasn't been the reason, that has been the reason why you have not used Magaya for accounting so far. If that was the main reason, then now you can use it. We have cash basis in the main financial reports. So profit and loss, balance sheet, trial balance, general ledger, and also the transaction detail by account are now available as cash basis. And this configuration option can be done per report, as I did in this demo, or it can be set up in the accounting configuration under your maintenance folder settings to run cash basis by default, on the reports where it exists. Okay, so this is a quick demo of some accounting news. Again, apologize for if it didn't mean much to you, but for some of you, it is very important news because we have been asked to have this for a while. All right. So we have the next poll introducing the next topic. Oh, this is a quick one. Have you been waiting for an easier way to import data into your Magaya system? All right, and yes, show me what's new, and we have a no as well, which again, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to import data. And we're talking about a CSV import, so a text file, which is like a spreadsheet that you save as a type of text file from Excel, and you're able to import data into Magaya. So let me close this poll. Around half of us have voted, and let's share the result. We have an overwhelming majority of. Let's see what you have, guys. All right. So let's get there, and I'll first let me show you very quickly a screenshot that I took earlier and lost apparently. Great. This window, I think many of you have seen it. If you tried to do CSV import before, that's what you had to go through. It is a little bit confusing because the file that you had to select was essentially a spreadsheet, and then the data on the spreadsheet you had to control by checking or unchecking these boxes here and drag them around so that the top-down order matched the left-right order of your spreadsheet. And it was it was not as user-friendly as it could be, let's say. All right, so we have updated it, and we now have, and I'll show a demo as well, a new wizard kind of approach for importing CSV files. So we redesigned the process of importing a CSV file. Most of Magaya's list views allow a CSV import, so now that process is redesigned, and I'm going to show it to you. And then we also implemented a completely new type of import, which is rates. Importing rates. Those of you that have to manage large rate tables that your carriers maybe update frequently, or your sell rates that you want to update frequently for your customers, you're now going to be able to do that using a CSV import. All right, and we're actually also working on a video tutorial on that import rates feature. So stay tuned. We'll send out the newsletter, and it'll be on our YouTube page where we put all our tutorials. Okay, so let me show you a quick demonstration. So first of all, just to demonstrate very quickly the new wizard approach, I'm just going to go to a simple import, which can be, for example, customers. So this is my customer list, and I have a CSV file. Let me open my Excel. Just to show you how the data would look. So this is my customer list. And many of you, new implementations, or when you just get new customers or new leads, or you have dealt with lists like this, where one line represents one record, and you want to import this into Magaya. So this type of import you can do for any entities, customers, forwarding agents, your inventory items if you have them. And so I'm just going to show you how this file can be imported in the new methodology. So now when I go choose actions and import, I'm getting a wizard instead of that screen you saw on the screenshot. And let's see what the options are here on the first page of the wizard. I have to pick the source file that I'm importing, so I'm opening the same file that I just had on the screen. And an important option here is whether or not the import file, the data, has a header row or not. So as you saw from my Excel table, it did. I had a first row specifying the column names. You may or may not have that, and if you don't have, or if you do have that row, you should check this box. Otherwise, that first row will be imported as a record. So I would have a customer name whose name is customer name, etc. So this checkbox basically makes the system skip the first row. All right, so the next screen will show the data preview, okay? So the preview here basically shows on the first line the field names in Magaya, and on the second line and below, the data that it was able to read from your table, from your spreadsheet, okay? And well, I have already practiced this, so this is actually kind of boring. You see that the column or the field names in Magaya already match the columns, but first they didn't. So for example, I had to decide that what I had in the second column here that I had in my Excel file named code, I wanted to import on the entity ID field. So let's say I don't want maybe it on an entity ID, I want it on a different field. I know I have something also called account number. So let's say I want that code to import on the account number field in Magaya. The rest of the columns I think I have already matched. I have a column in my table that's called customer name. I want this to be on the name field, email address, phone number, fax. I have made these columns already match. But if not, how you make them match is what you saw me do. You do the drop down here and you decide where this column in my data table needs to be in Magaya. And some columns are here that you actually can't import, and those are the ones with asterisk, and you see the columns are not importable, and there's a reason why they're here, but it's a little bit technical, so let's not go into that right now. Okay, so basically I make my data columns match with the fields by doing the drop downs at the header. I'll hit next, and it gives me a confirmation saying out of your spreadsheet, I'm reading that these would be the records that I can create. And I can actually double click and look at a preview. It's not a record in the system yet, but it gives me a preview. I'm happy with this and says now this is the import result. These are records that I did create. They're already in the system now. I can email a report of that list. And there we go. My new customers are now in the system. Those top 3. Okay, so more easy and user-friendly than the previous way of importing data. But now let's go to the real big news, which is importing rates. Okay, and here let's start. We are working on a video on this one, but let's start by explaining the different types of import. So what you saw in the previous demonstration was a simple data table where one line is one record in Magaya. One line in my CSV file was one customer in my Magaya system as a result. Now there are more complex records such as warehouse receipts, invoices that you can import in Magaya, and such as rates, where the record is a little bit more complicated because it contains a table. So rate is one of those. So I have a typical carrier rate here, a simple one, ocean freight from Miami to Rio de Janeiro by container, and in the table I can specify what the different types of containers are. So I can go by weight, for example, and different. You know what the rate record looks like in Magaya. But basically, the key is that there's a table within the record, and in that case, the table lines are what I'm actually importing. So the import format for this, if I were to import this rate, would actually contain two lines where everything else, all the other columns are identical, but the table part, those two columns contain different information. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate how to set this import format up by exporting these two rates and seeing how it looks. Okay, so I'm going to export these two carrier rates that I have manually created in my Magaya system into a CSV file. Okay, I'm going to export all the columns available by leaving all the boxes checked. Going to export this as my, let's say, carrier export 1. As a CSV file. And this is a good trick in general. Whenever you're not sure about what the correct format might be for import, create a record or two manually and export them and see how they look and use that as your template. Okay, so I'm going to open the file I just exported. And as you can see, the two rates in my system show up as 4 lines because both of them contain a table with 2 lines. And again, as you can see, where possible or where the data is the same, you see identical data in the columns. So you can see by destination port, one is Rio, one is Santos here in my case, that lines 1 and 2 are different from lines 2 to 4. And you can see here that the more than / container type field and the rate are where the lines differ. So let's say I'm making changes here. Let me hike these prices a little bit. And let me say they now increased the prices. By a little. And just to show that you can enter different types of rates, different types of charges here, let me do this. I'm going to copy this last line, basically duplicate it. So it's now an identical line, and let me add here manually something that wasn't on the rate that I exported. Let me say that they included a new rate for a 20-foot container. So I'm making a change here, let's say something like this, okay? And by the way, I know that Excel is very helpful and always tries to help us with formatting, so that's why I already know I'm going to not display how the error would appear, but the date here needs to be 2016, so bear with me while I fix this. By the way, we have built in a way that if this happened to you, you would get a specific error message telling you what's wrong, but just to save time, I'm not going to let that happen. So there are a few formatting requirements that this data needs to comply with. Okay, so the ones that are more technical, like such as this, that there is a specific date format, you would get an error message saying your date needs to be in a specific format. But the ones that are, there are also some that are, pretty common sense, if you ask me. For example, the carrier, if I were to use anyone else here in a carrier, any carrier that I don't already have in my Magaya system by exactly that name, I would get an error saying carrier not found. If I were to use a different charge type, for example, that I don't have in my items and services in Magaya, or to use a country code or port code, or a mode of transportation code that I didn't have in Magaya, or a container type or a currency code, for example, then obviously I would get an error. So that's why it would take a little bit to set up, to make sure that all the possible values that you can import are defined, that you maybe have them somewhere in Excel so you could copy paste instead of having to type, or that you always start with an export like I did. And if they have just updated the rates, you can do just what I did here, just change it, or copy paste it from the file that they sent you. Okay, so I'm going to save this as a CSV file so I can import this. So let me call this carrier rates import 1, for example, and it's a CSV file. Okay. All right, so you're going to ask probably what's going to happen with these existing rates. Well, if I want a completely clean import, I could delete them manually, but I'm going to not do that, just to show you a feature that we built in, that if the system finds rates that match existing rates, that are current, that have the same carrier, same charges, same origin and destination, it will ask to expire the old ones. Okay, so here it's giving me a preview. It says I read these 5 lines in this header line in your data. As you can see, since I exported from Magaya's format and I'm importing in the same format, the columns again match already the fields at the top. So this is a fixed format. It's a very, again, that good reason why start with an export. And it says, okay, I'm going to create these 2 rates. If I open the second one, I actually see that this has a 3rd line, which is the one I added manually. All right, so these are the rates that we generated. And now in this screen, it says expiration of rates. So they found current rates that are similar to those that were generated. System will set those as expired. I can choose to not do that on a line-by-line basis, but by default, all these rates on this screen will be marked expired. So I'm going to save my changes in the database and finish. And now I have my expired rates and my current rates with the changes that I made. All right, so this rate import works for carrier rates, client rates, and standard client rates similarly. Okay, and I did want to mention that we've been working on this for a while, and we started the project by researching what kind of rate tables our customers have. We've asked probably a few of you even, hey, send us an example of how a carrier sends their rates to you. And we wanted to make it, something that everyone could use. And we pretty quickly realized that it's not possible to use what your carriers send you, because they are very, very different. Some of them are just lists, single lists. Some of them are 2-dimensional matrices. Some of them are even PDFs or emails. The ones that are Excel tables, again, they vary a lot. So the only thing we could do really is to take Magaya's format, like we have with other records. This is what you can import. So to set this up in a way that you could frequently update your rates by importing them, it will take some time. It'll take probably an hour of work. Maybe you need some help with Excel in how to make your carrier rate tables map to the Magaya import table, so that you update only the carrier table, which automatically updates the Magaya table. Then you export it as CSV and import. There are ways, but it might take some Excel work. But the thing is, any software or any process that includes manipulating data in Excel and importing data in CSV, you know, would take that work, especially with something as complex as rates. So we're confident that this could work for many of our customers, especially if you have people that are good with Excel, or if you ask the help of our implementation guys. All right. So this was import data. And before we go to the next topic, Jose is going to say a few words too. Yeah.
Talk about the next topic, just to give a little bit of a rest. You know, Chris, thank you. I think that you did a really good job at explaining those 2 points. I think is very good and very important. While we get you set up with the new live track, what we want to show you guys next is the new design. Okay. We want to go ahead and do the new design. We want to go ahead and set up the views for all users. This is important. Some of you have been wanting to brand these things differently. So we want to open up the default screen like normally. This is what Chris is showing. As you can see, he's done some changes. It says Chris Shipping Incorporated. So we want to show you how that works. So Chris,
all right.
Tell us what we have.
So we have a few ways here that this link that you generate, and you know, this hyperlink that you put in your Go and Track link on your website actually contains many parameters already. You can put your company name here. You can even change the language here. So I can have 2 links, one for English, one for Spanish, for example. And just by changing that language code in the link there, look, my interface actually changed into Spanish. And we can now even add a logo here. We can go actually, and we have a customer that's, I was just browsing yesterday and I found our customer. I don't know if you guys are on right now, but you can even have your company logo on your Magaya, powered by Magaya live track login page. Okay, this is actually not necessarily new, but let's look at the new features. Logging in as my customer, John. And in the settings, we have included a few different themes. We have, for example, you can change the color. Few different themes here. That's just mostly just cosmetic. But what an important part of this is, for example, you can have your customers, if they're in different parts of the world, decide how they want to see the dates displaying in the live track interface and what their default entry is. Now that's interesting. For example, here my customer John that I'm logged in as, I've given him access to shipments and invoices, but when we logged in, we still saw the dashboard. So maybe he wants to get to his invoices right away. So for example, now next time John logs in, he will be taken to the invoices screen. So that's one of the changes. Then there is now a new create option, which basically works as shortcuts at the top. So those of you whose customers are using Magaya's online transactions, like they're filing online pickup orders or online bookings or sales orders, online shipments, you used to have to go to the list and then click add at the bottom, which sometimes was slow because the list had to load, etc. So now you have a quick shortcut here to go and create your online transaction. So let's say my customer wants to create an online booking. Interesting. I might not have given this customer access. I'm trying to demonstrate this as a customer who doesn't have valid access. That is not good. Let me go and yes. Let's say that John can do online bookings and online sales orders. I apologize for that. And let's do a quick reset. Now we should see a demonstration of the landing page. Remember, John wanted to see invoices right away as he logs in. All right, so we are here on invoices now, as you can see. And our create shortcut now actually gives us an option to create an online booking or to create an online sales order without having to open the appropriate list. So I'm going to quickly show you a new feature for our online sales orders. So those of you that deal with part numbers, we now have the option to quickly search for online sales orders items. So let's say I want to order markers. Looks like markers I do not have. Let's see what I do have. I have Kleenex. Okay, so as I type now, it searches dynamically either by part number or by item description. And what I can also do is I can upload, if you have large orders from your customers, they can now upload a CSV file with 2 columns, just part number and quantity, and it will try to search for those part numbers in your database and try to look for them. So in this case, they were not found because my part numbers weren't activated for online sales, but you would see what the quantity is that the customer requested, what's available, and what you can provide to them. All right, and then you can go and you have to select at least a few items. So let me select some here. So you can go and submit this online sales order, and it will end up as a sales order in your system. The same with the online booking as it was, and online pickup orders. We have made minor changes there as well. All right, so now let's go and discuss the biggest change in LiveTrack, which is you may have heard from your customers that when they log into LiveTrack, they're like, this is confusing. They are not Magaya end users, so they don't know how to save their views, how to filter. The LiveTrack interface might require some learning. Now you can make it easier for them. There's also a video on our YouTube page, a how-to video on how to use this. And what I'm going to show you is how to customize LiveTrack for all your customers. So the themes that you saw on the landing page, I logged in as my customer John, okay, but I might have 100 customers do that, and I don't want to log in 100 times to make those changes. Okay, so now I can create what I call a super user or an admin user in my LiveTrack user list. So I go to any list, any maintenance folder list that has LiveTrack users, and I go to Actions and LiveTrack user list. And from here I can click Add, which I already did, and create a new record, and it would look something like this. Basically, the key is you create your own company as a LiveTrack user. So this is my company. The database owner, I get a username, password. And how do I know? How I know it's my company is that a system ID column shows my company network ID. Okay, so now that I have this user created, I can log into LiveTrack as the admin user and perform actions that will affect every single customer or agent, every single LiveTrack user of mine. Okay, so I'm now logged in as admin, and let's say I want to create a very simple view for invoices. So I'm going to invoices, and I'm seeing the columns and the filters that everyone else sees. I don't have any invoices to myself, so that's why I don't see any data here. But let's say I want to see all invoices filtered by status open, and I want to choose some columns. Let's see, only very basic columns. I want to see invoice number. Status I don't even need to see because I know it's unpaid, and a total. Okay, so I want to just see very, very basic information, maybe currency, okay? And by see, I mean I want my customer to see, just so they don't see too much data. So now when I go and save this view as, and because I am this administrator user, I can say this is invoices, or sorry, unpaid invoices. And I can say this is now a view published to all my LiveTrack users, and this is now also the default view for all my LiveTrack users. So as I save this, I'm done. I can do this in every list, and this will affect every customer of mine. So let's say I log in as my customer again. As I did before, I was John, And John had already said that they want to always see invoices. So actually, that should be the first screen that I see. Only now with the addition that the view, as you can see from the top right, that opened was the view that I had created as administrator for all my customers, default view. So John lands to their invoices and sees the unpaid invoices view by default. He still sees all other views that he has, but this will be the default one because I set it up like that. So this is a way to really make LiveTrack more customized for your customers, easier, cleaner. As you could see, John's experience is pretty pleasant right now. He got to invoices and only has 5 columns and all the appropriate filters already. The same you can do with shipments, for example, by status. They can only see, or they land to a shipments view that shows shipments that are currently in transit, for example. That's something that they need to deal with. Okay, so finally, we're actually done with what we were going to show today. And just as a sneak preview, I'll describe what we have coming on September 27th. I'm sorry, this is an incorrect date. It's actually December 27th. Let's go back here. Let me change this so that it's visually correct as well. Otherwise, I will be held accountable
by our marketing department. Yes, they will come after you.
All right. Oh, this is not the slide. New slideshow. There we go. So September 27th, we'll have actually part 2 of our 10.4 features. And why we had to do this is 10.4 is such a massive version that, or big version with many updates that they didn't all fit into the same webinar. So we have made improvements in receiving in warehouse, where you can now scan items with by their external tracking number, and that will create the line in your warehouse receipt instead of having to manually add them. You can now take up to 5 pictures simultaneously with network cameras with just one click. And if you're using Cubiscan, you can even eliminate that click. Cubiscan can now fire your camera. So at the same time you get your weights and dims, you also get up to 5 pictures. And we're going to show that on September 27th. Then we have improvements in the outgoing side of things as well, namely Express Link, which is Magaya's way of creating shipments using FedEx and UPS. So you can print FedEx and UPS labels directly from your Magaya system, and it will generate tracking links, and you can send them to your customers and they can see them in LiveTrack. And the tracking link will open the UPS or FedEx tracking page. And by the way, USPS is in the works, just a sneak preview again. And then finally, we have a proof of delivery POD mobile app working on Android and iOS, which we have majorly updated, which now includes also pickup orders. So we have delivery that works based on cargo releases, and we have pickup that works based on pickup orders, where you can send cargo from point A to point B, and it will work on a mobile screen with Google Maps integration. All right. So we're going to show these on September 27th. We just won't have time to show those today. And after today's webinar, when you get your follow-up email, you'll actually have a link there to sign up for September 27th already. All right. So this would conclude what we had to show today. And let's see what questions we already have. All right, question about the VGM. Will there be one VGM document issued per container, or would the document include all containers in the shipment? So if this is about the Magaya standard document that we created, it is one document, but it is multi-page. So it will page break per container. All right. then next question. Yes, the pricing special on the VGM. So the pricing is that we have now essentially 3 separate services that you can access through Intra and Magaya: booking requests, shipping instructions, and the VGM. And each of those also includes cargo status updates coming back from the carrier system to your Magaya system. So all of those, or any of those, however many of those you want to use, are now going to be priced per container. Okay, so you can file 1, 2, or 3 of those per container. The price is going to be the same. It's a $2 per container, and I do believe there's a bracketed system, but it's $2 per container. All right. If you are a current Intra user, Magaya and Intra user for the booking and shipping instructions, you may keep your current pricing if you want to. So you would have to only change to the per container pricing if you want to also include VGM in your contract. Okay.
Correct. So if you are a current customer of Intra, if you don't want the VGM, you don't have to make any changes. You stay the way you are. That's fine. But those of you who do have Intra and want a VGM, you have to go ahead and jump into the new pricing. Okay. So just let us know if we need to make it a little bit more clear for you. We can definitely put you in contact with one of our sales reps and help you out in any way we can. Okay?
All right. So then we have the single sign-on question. Does this apply when working through Magaya Cloud? Yes and no. Yes, technically it does. No, setting this up is a case-by-case procedure. So if you're already a Magaya Cloud customer, you would have to request our tech support to help you out there to set it up for you. New Magaya customers, well, they're not on this webinar, but yes, implementation department will also now start asking them if they would like single sign-on instead of 2 separate logins. But if you're already an existing customer, unfortunately, we can't flip a switch. So if you want to set this, want to have this set up, it's something we would have to do for you. So contact tech support, and they'll help you out. All right. Will this presentation be available on a video? Yes, we will. We are actually posting all our previous webinar recordings on our YouTube channel as well. So go to youtube.com, search for Magaya, click on Magaya Corporation, you'll get to our channel and save it under your favorites. There's a lot of useful stuff there, including webinar recordings. All right. Then we have a VGM question about units. The info entered on the container is entered as pounds, but the document, is it converting the kilograms or not? So this is based on what you set in Magaya as your shipment measurement unit. So it's the same logic as on other documents. You can have the interface in pounds, but produce a document that outputs in kilos or in kilos and pounds. This logic hasn't changed. All right. Is there a fee in addition to the monthly Intra fee? That is a very good question. I think we didn't mention this. Yes, if you're using the new per container charging for Intra, that includes the VGM. There is no monthly fee or no minimum. You will only be charged per container. Okay. So in the current Intra pricing structure, I believe it's a monthly minimum regardless of how many containers you file. So in the new one, it's only per container, no minimum. All right, so there's a question. We are a 3PL on the tracking. Customer can see all items, products, even if it's not under their company names. There is a way to set up the products, your inventory and definitions with the customer on it, in which case only the customer will see it, or with the customer blank, in which case all customers can see it. So it's a setup issue. Again, our tech support can help you out there, but we have thought about that. Yeah, I totally agree that if you're a 3PL and you give customer access through LiveTrack, they should only see their product, but the product has to be set up as such. All right, is this release ready to install? Yes, if you go to, if you do an online update, this is the version that you would currently get, the version that you saw. Or if you're downloading a new installer from the web. So again, our tech support can help you with online update, or if your administrators are maybe familiar with the process already, we have a manual for that as well in our knowledge base. All right, and so finally, do we have any more questions? Looks like this was okay. Right, and so we have we actually got, all right. So question. Oh, another question: is this 10.4 or 10.5? That is a good question. This is version 10.4. Version 10.5 is not released yet. I'm sorry if that was confusing. I did mention a few features that will come in 10.5, such as LiveTrack will have even more updates. The document designer will have multi-page documents, etc. But what you saw here and the webinar on September 27th with the warehouse receiving updates, the proof of delivery, and the FedEx and UPS shipping is still all the current release 10.4 version. Okay, so I did mention passingly 10.5 a couple times, but this is 10.4. All right, and
yeah, the last thing we want to finish off with is basically, as you know, Magaya has been part of the Airwaybill 360, working with IATA and being able to get all of the information to the clients. You know, since we are being one of the providers. Tomorrow is actually the go live date for Miami. Miami is going to be going live, as well as Atlanta. Some of you, had a chance to meet you at this August 2nd here in MIA. So as you know, this is the call to action. Now we're trying to see how much of that e-Airwaybill we can get percentage up moving. So as you know, we have those 16 participating airlines: Air Mexico, American, Air Canada, Air France, China, Cathay, Delta, Finnair, KLM, Korean, LATAM Cargo, Lufthansa, Qatar, Saudi Cargo, Swiss, and United. They're the ones who are leading this program. So we're very proud to be part of that, and it's just great to see Miami kind of jump into it. So this is our port. This is where we mostly ship from. And let's just get in on that option, so you have a chance to be able to do that. So as you know, the single process in Atlanta, Miami is effective tomorrow. So if you haven't done that, just let us know. Send us an email. We'll gladly assist you in any way we can and put you in contact with one of our advisors here in Magaya. Okay? So thank you for joining us, Chris.
We have one more question, just a clarification from Joe. If the upgrade admin feature for LiveTrack are in 10.4, the answer is yes. And by the way, there is also a video already on our YouTube channel for that particular one. If you're interested in the updated or in the upgraded admin features of LiveTrack, you don't have to watch this whole recording, and there's a special video for that right here.
All right, perfect. So guys and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Chris, you did an amazing job today. Thank you. Not that you do any less on the other webinars, but you really went out and being able to help our clients understand a little better. Once again, how to contact us. You have the 786-845, or you can use page 1. Let us know how we can assist you. Follow us on Twitter. Let us know how we're doing. And Chris, thanks a lot for a great job, man. Thank you. And
thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jose. See you on September 27th.